David Ross, an astronaut, spends time with his children, Lily and Ricky, while drawing them. But his wife, Kate, interrupts, calling him away to a birthday party. Elsewhere, a man named Henry chops wood outside a red barn, struggling with the task and reflecting on his new life. Later, David Ross, with his family at a movie theater, encounters a fan who praises his realness, prompting a discussion about the nature of his space mission. He joins Kate and a child, Henry Jr., for a modest dinner at their home. The family then returns to their upscale home, where David spends intimate moments with Kate. These scenes are intercut with glimpses of another couple embracing. Then a man checking his watch, excusing himself and walking to a building where he enters a medical bay and connects to a device. The man is revealed to be David Ross, reconnecting to his astronaut body on a space station. He interacts with fellow astronaut Cliff and returns to his Earth replica body, but finds his house occupied by strangers led by a man named Kappa. Enraged, Ross grabs a baseball bat and demands they leave. The occupants tie Ross to a couch and gag him, demanding information about his location. When Ross insists that they are not androids and have blood, Kappa suggests testing this by cutting Ross's hand. They discover he has a mechanical replacement in his arm and mock him. Kappa then uses a hammer to force the location from him, while Kate pleads for her and her children's safety. Kappa ominously states that defying nature has a cost and appears to attack Kate. David Ross awakens in his capsule on the space station. On Earth, Kate reads a newspaper headline stating, "Earth replica astronauts family slain. Hippie gang calmly awaited arrest." Back on the space station, astronaut 2, Cliff Stanfield, tells David Ross that his family has been murdered and his replica has been burned, leaving him alone. Ross does sit-ups and looks at his Earth replica in the plant room. Back at the farmhouse, Henry Ross takes the daily news from the mailbox and is distracted by a sermon being played over the space station's PA system. He later makes a fishing pole for his son and watches a clip of the space station. Henry is later at a creek with his son Henry Jr. fishing, but abruptly leaves him alone to return to the farmhouse. Back on the space station, David is alarmed when Cliff almost throws himself out, then asks Cliff what he was doing. On Earth, Henry discusses his situation with Kate, suggesting that if there were a computer malfunction, this is him dead too. Kate suggests that he should use her link to walk into the woods to feel the breeze. David proposes that Henry use his link for a little while to experience Earth, describing the house location with a forest and stream for fishing. David Ross continues experiencing his replica's memories, including moments with his wife, Kate, and children. Within his mind, Ross meets with an image of Kate, derived from astronaut 2, promising to return home. He relives a memory of Kate showing him her favorite spot, a large tree where he is overwhelmed by the sight of a millipede. Back in the farmhouse, after a transfer, Henry startles Kate and reveals he wept during a previous memory injection at the old tree. Later, Stanfield shows Ross a drawing of his house and, despite initial hesitation, agrees to support Ross's desire to paint. Waking up in the barn on Earth, Ross, spurred by a painting of the family homestead, decides he will paint a thank you gift and asks for oil paints. Cliff then places the transfer helmet on David's head. On Earth, replica David, now referred to as Henry, completes the last paint stroke on his artwork. Another transfer occurs, and now back on the space station, astronaut 1, David Ross, and astronaut 2, Cliff Stanfield, discuss the implications of completing the painting, agreeing that it's for the best. Astronaut 1 and astronaut 2 then discuss the practicalities of oil painting in space before the final transfer begins, with Henry finishing the painting in the barn, guided by Kate's hand for the final stroke. Henry, an Earth replica, and Kate are painting together when they are interrupted by their son, Henry Jr. The scene shifts to astronaut David Ross in a chamber, preparing for a transfer. Henry washes his hands and remarks on the painting's progress as Ross sketches his wife. Henry asks Kate for linseed oil, and she suggests borrowing Cliff's car. Henry, wearing Cliff's hat, drives with Kate to a harbor town to buy the oil. At a bookstore, the clerk mistakes Henry for Cliff Stanfield and expresses condolences for the loss of Ross's co-pilot and family. Back at the farm, Henry shows Kate a painting of their farmhouse with her included, but she becomes upset. Kate accuses him of confusing her, giving unwanted gifts and impersonating her husband. Henry reveals he is also a replica, but Kate demands he leave. As Ross receives a message in space, Henry Jr. watches his mother walk through a field while Henry resumes painting. Stanfield, visibly agitated, confronts Ross in his chamber, displaying a sketchbook filled with nude sketches, including some of Stanfield's wife, Kate. Stanfield accuses Ross of crossing a line and threatens him. Meanwhile, on Earth, Henry, the replica, paints the violent encounter from memory in his studio. Ross claims the drawings are just fantasies and apologizes, but Stanfield attacks him. Ross retaliates violently, leaving Stanfield injured on the floor and berating him for lusting after Kate. Ross exits, leaving Stanfield crying, and heads to operations, preparing to leave his body on the space station. Back on the station, Henry awakens in his bunk, haunted by images of Kate driving away and approaching the studio. Kate approaches, and Henry quickly hides the painting, concerned about her seeing it. Later, in the Earth replica, Henry confronts Kate about her relationship with the painter. He accuses her of posing nude for him, which she denies, though she admits to a sense of loneliness and a yearning for connection while Henry is away. She admits to wishing the painter had touched her, because all the time Henry is here, she is lonely. Later, on the space station, Stanfield apologizes to Ross. Ross reveals that Kate called Stanfield names and doesn't want him near her, declaring, "She's mine." Stanfield is left injured and devastated as Ross prepares for a spacewalk to investigate damage to the station. Ross, working at a control panel, abruptly leaves Henry alone in his room, seemingly asleep. Ross discovers the damage is caused by a pod bearing his own face, seemingly sent from Earth. Ross risks his life to save the David replica on the station. Confused, David finds the tag from his Earth home among his belongings. And Ross, recovering in a hospital gurney, is distressed by the sight of his own blood. After an unseen altercation, Cliff Stanfield appears disoriented and bloodied inside a wood cabin home. He stumbles through the blood-smeared rooms, calling out for Lana, and overcome with grief, collapses to the floor, weeping as he recalls the events that transpired there. The scene transitions to a space station, where Cliff, in an astronaut suit, stands before David Ross, also in a suit. Cliff, as a manifestation in David's mind, sits dejected at a table, while David, facing the camera, looks forlorn, suggesting Cliff's trauma is playing out within David's consciousness.